Hello, welcome back. This is Jeff Byers, and this is UV mapping part 4. And we've got to kind of figure out what kind of materials we want to use. For the glasses, I think we're going to keep them in Maya because Maya has a good material for glass. So we're going to keep that set up as glass. The decorative plate and the spheres inside the plate, these will be UV textured. Do we want to UV each one of these to be a separate material or keep them all in one? That's up to you. If you do UV map them separately, you have to put them in their own UV tiles. Okay, the plate will be in its own UV tile, and we need to do the floor and the walls as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. With UV mapping this time, we're going to use a planar mapping. This will work really well, and I'll show you how that all works. So we're going to go to UV, and we're going to go to planar mapping right here. Okay, and the reason for that is, let's talk about that real quick since it's something new that we're going to UV map, is that the surface is facing up and down. Okay. So this object's going to be fairly easy to map. There's not going to be a whole lot of messing around with this. So we'll go ahead and get going. It's going to be fairly easy. So UV, and then we're going to go planar mapping with that. And we're going to do bounding box, and it's going to be facing the Y. So you can see that the object's facing the Y. Click on Y axis and select it, and it gets kind of a weird looking little box. Don't worry about that. And we're going to go to UV editor, and look at that. That worked out really well. Okay, the only problem is it's got a bottom 2 as well. So I'm going to go ahead and select it, UV shell, and click on the UV shell, and let's kind of move it. What's going to happen is going to UV the top and the bottom at the same time. And the dish, this being a dish, that works out fine. Let me click off of here a minute and see if we have, that might be kind of a problem here. I might have to, let me move that up. I'm going to isolate this a second here. Control 1 to isolate it. Let's look on the bottom of it. No, that's okay. It looked like it was black underneath. I just wanted to double check on that. Okay. Now, if this dish was going to have a different texture on the bottom than the top, you would have to separate those out, but it's going to share the same exact texture, so that's good. So I'm going to do Control 1 again, and that brings us back to where we were, and that was very easy to do. So that one is done. UV shell is done. I may select it and just scale it down just a bit like that, just to get it away from the edges. And we've talked about that. So that UV shell is done. Okay. Now the spheres. So let's go click on object mode and hit the Q key, click off, and then click one of the spheres. Now the spheres automatically are UV mapped. You can't get any easier than that. So no worries there. So we're going to leave those the way they are. And unfortunately, they will pinch at the very center of the object. No matter what you do, there's going to be some pinching at the very center of that object there. Okay. So no worries. It's one of those things, you know, just going to have to. Hopefully, it's far enough away that you don't really see it. So those are things you need to think about. Spheres are very difficult to UV map, and even if we select it and unfold it, let's take a look at this, and unfold it, it becomes distorted. And let's look at the. Let's click on the checker map, okay, and the shell is awful large, so let's go and scale that down a little bit so we can see what's going on here. So there we go. Whoops, get back into my perspective mode. Here we go. So we can see it a little bit better. Okay. So you can see how we've got some distortion there when we unfolded. So I'm going to Control Z back again. And how it was more uniform that way. So let's go back into UV shell. And let's scale this down. Here we go. And let's scale it this way. But you can see everything's kind of pinching. There we go. Everything's kind of pinching inside of it, and that's, you know, this is how it is. So I'm not going to worry too much about that. But that basically looks pretty good for that particular texture. If I click on the plate, go to selection mode on the plate, you can see that it UV mapped really well. Okay, that looks really good. So now we've got left, since we can duplicate one of these balls, or I should say one of these spheres, over and over again once we texture it. Now we can move on to the next set. So I'm going to click on object mode, click off the checkerboard, and let's move on to the floor and the walls. Now the floor should be done, should be completely done. Click on UV shell and click on that, and it should be all completely done. And I'm going to scale that down just a smidgen. Not much, just a smidgen. Okay. And then we have the walls. Go back into selection mode. I'm going to turn off this. And also is UV mapped okay. Okay. But I think I need to UV map it again to make sure that everything's good to go on this. So I'm going to turn that off. And we're going to do a automatic map on this. Okay. So we'll see what it comes up with. So I'm going to go to UV automatic map. Okay. And that's what it comes up with. And that's what we want. Except the window is not facing the right direction. So let's go to UVs and find out if that's the top or the bottom. And hit the 4 key so I can see. Hit the Q key. So I'm going to go to UV and select one of the points if I can figure out what's going on with this thing. UV shell. Okay, let's get back into object mode. Go to UVs. There it is. So that's the top. So we need to flip that around. Let's go to UV shell and rotate that. Okay, so we know that is, I think we know that's the top. Maybe we need to go around the horn here. There we go. Let's see if we got it right. Yep, that's the top. So let's do the top row. Yep, we got that right. Go back to UV shell. Click on it and move it around until you get it the way you want it. And here's the window that fits in here. Okay. And we probably want the window in its own UV shell, right? So the window will be in its own UV shell. Place that over here. So it's going to be a different material than the wall. That's going to be the wall, and this is going to be the window. Okay, so we're going to have two different shells here. I'm going to hit on the 5 key, and that looks pretty good now. Now we got that all set up. Okay, turn off the checkerboard, and that one's all done. Okay, and then we've got the other wall here. Make sure in object mode under Windows, click on object mode. And this one's all messed up. This is not correct. So I'm going to go to UV, automatic mapping. Okay. And this has 2 windows. So we're going to go ahead and select these guys and move those over here. Okay. And let's move that away from, whoops. Let's go into, looks like it has separate. I'm going to marquee select that, move that over a little bit. Marquee select this and move this over a little bit, like that. And not sure what's happening here. I think these go over here. And this guy right here, yep, that looks good. And then what is up and down? I think this is up. Yep, that's up. So let's go ahead and go to UV shell, select the UV shell, rotate it this way once, and place it up in here. And let's go to UV and see how everything looks. That looks good. Let's check these UV, and there's on the up, are up, and are these the same way? Yep, that's facing up. Okay, so everything looks good, and the walls are completely finished. Now I might want to scale this up a little bit like that and move it. Okay. All right. So what now? Select the floor. This is important. Select the floor. Shift select the wall and make sure we're in object mode. Okay, and then go to the checkerboard and just match the checkers up, and that matches pretty good. So the textile density of all three of these look really, really good. And that's kind of what we're looking for. Okay. So click off. Okay. So if we were to bring this into a game engine, we would have to make sure we are set it up as Udemy tiles, but I'm not too worried about that because we're not gonna bring in a game engine right now. We're gonna set up everything in Maya and show you how to render properly in Maya. Anytime down the road, you can bring this into a game engine, no problem. Okay. All right, everything looks pretty good. So let's check the textile density of all the other pieces. Now, between the chair and the table are really important. Okay. The floors, there's no way to get the textile density to match the floor because it's such a big object. But if we can get the chair to match up with the table, or vice versa, that would be a good start. So we probably want to go a little bit smaller. Let's go to UV shells and turn the map checkerboard off because it's really hard to see. And I need to get this centered. There we go. We will probably have to go a little bit smaller. Okay, so the checkerboard is a little bit smaller. So we're going to go ahead and make this smaller. Okay, not by much. Something like that would be fine. And let's check it against the table. There we go. And that's closer. It's not spot on, but it's much better than it was. Okay. Big discrepancies or small discrepancies aren't a big deal, but large discrepancies are really noticeable, so you have to be kind of careful. All right. We could probably go even smaller than that. Let's click off of that. And let's go into UV shell again, select it, and make it even smaller yet. Here we go. That works pretty good. All right. Click on the wall, compare it to the table. Okay, I think everything's good. All right, textile density looks good. So we're going to go ahead and start saving our pieces out. Okay, so we can bring them into Substance Painter. Okay, so let's start with the table. These are going to be two Udemy tiles. Okay. Double check, make sure nothing is crossing over each other or going outside the UV texture shell space. Okay. Make sure this is in object mode. I'm going to turn off the texture border. I'm going to make sure this is in object mode up here under Windows. Click on that. And then we're going to go to this, what looks like a camera. Click on the camera. And this is how we set everything up. We want everything to be a PNG, okay, image format. We want it to be at the largest size we can get our hands on, which is 4096, so we can get nice resolution, okay. And you know, there are people that are going to squawk about the scale and size of an object. You probably could have gone 2048 by 2048. It's a larger size that we're going to because I want the highest resolution we can for render. Okay. When you get into the gaming arena, you may want to be more particular about how big something is. Like a glass, you could probably do 1024 by 1024 depending on the scale of the object in your scene. But right now, we're good with 4096, and we're going to do everything, even the small stuff, at 4096. Okay, so we can get the nicest, highest resolution as we can, depending on how close we get to the object with the camera. Okay, so 4096 by 4096, we've got two tiles across. So we know in U is this direction, right? V is up and down. So we've got 2 UV tiles. Okay. Now if I use more than 2, you would count how many UV tiles you have and you type it in here. So right now we have 2. So if you had 3, you would do 1, 2, 3. If you had another UV map here, so we have 2 and 1. And if you forget to do this, it won't work. So so just remember that you go across first. That's this number. How many across here you got? And if you go all the way across, you can only do 10, if I'm correct. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, 10 across. But you can go 10 across this way and then start over on this one and go all the way across. Okay? You just got to make sure you have the number here. And if you go up, then you'll have 10 across here, and then if you go up to here, you have 2. You'll go into the second arena, okay? The second, and that goes all the way up. So you can have literally unlimited. And this is only shown 10 by 10, right? 100, right? So right now we're just going to do 2. Okay, so this is how you set it up, and then go to browse. Make sure you're in your usually I put mine in my source images folder. Okay, that's where I'm going to put my texture. So source images, you can put it in your images, but it should end up in your source images folder. Okay, so I'm going to go and click on source images. This is my project folder. It's going to automatically save to that. Okay. And I'm going to call it something like table, right? Table UV underscore TX. Okay. And save. Be descriptive. And then click on apply and close. The only way this will work is if you're in object mode here. Your object needs to be green. Okay. And then click apply and close. It's going to process those two 4096 by 4096 to your hard drive or flash drive. It may take a long time. I don't know. I'm saving it to my flash drive, so it may take a little longer. And that one's done. Okay, so you saved it. And then our chair. I guess I didn't need to close it. Shouldn't have closed it. Okay, so there's our chair. We have it all in one UV tile. Perfect. Go back into the object and click on your, chair, which I had already. And we're all ready to go. So go to snapshot. Everything's set up basically here, except that we only have one UV tile. So we bring that back to 1. Okay. And we are going to browse and call this something different. So we have, you can see we have table U and V1, table U2 and V1. And so this one is just going to be chair underscore UV underscore TX. Okay. And we're going to click on save. We're just going to have one Unum tile here. Apply and close. Okay. And if you're running off your flash drive or your external hard drive, give it time before you move things around once you click that, because that could take a while to figure out what it wants to do. Okay. And then we've got our plate. Same thing. Click on our camera. And everything looks good. We just got one tile, one across. PNG, browse. We're going to call this decorative plate. Plate, there we go. And that would be underscore UV underscore TX. And save that. And give it time before you click on anything. And click on apply and close. There we go. Saved it out. And then we have that one sphere. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and click on that. And again, it's pretty easy. From here, we do the exact same thing. And I'm going to go ahead and type in deco sphere underscore UV underscore TX. There we go. Oh, I need to spell it right. Sphere as in P, sphere. Deco sphere UV TX. Click on save. Okay, and then click on apply and close. All right. Now we have our floor. Okay, we have our floor. I click on the floor. There's the floor. We're all good. We did everything. We got everything set up. So now we're just going to do a snapshot. And this one has 1 and 1, and the windows will have 1 and 1 too. So we only have one thing that's using Unum tiles, and that is the table. So let's click on browse, and this is going to be called floor underscore UV underscore TX, and save it and apply and close. Do our window. This one has, oh wait, this one has 2 Unum tiles. So I'm going to go to click on the UV snapshot, and then we're going to type in 2 for U and 1 and V for 1, and then click on browse. This will be, let's say this is a left wall. Wall UV underscore TX. Click on save. Again, just double check and apply and close. Because it takes a little bit longer, it's saving 2 Unum tiles. Give it a chance to kind of save to your hard drive. And then let's go to the last one. This one also has Unum tiles too. Click on UV snapshot. Same old thing. And we are going to go to wall. Let's call this right. Got the left wall, we got the right wall. Okay, right wall. UV underscore TX. There we go. Right wall. And apply and close. Here we go. Awesome. So the next thing we're going to do, make sure you close UV editor, and now we're going to go ahead in the next video show you how to export all the objects out, and then we can bring them into Substance Painter for texturing.